Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are doing very good and you all are very fine. Okay, so in the last class, that is on Monday, we discussed about the performance of a contract. Okay, so till now we are clear that what a contract is, how a contract is performed in different circumstances, right? But today we will understand the topic which is known as discharge of contract. Sometimes what happens now, we are not able to give performance completely, or we fail to give the performance, or we try to give the performance, but there are certain circumstances in which we are unable to perform, or the contract is cancelled. So what are the situations where contract will be discharged? That is, contract will be cancelled. Now there will be no contract between the parties. So in this chapter, discharge of contract, the word discharge of contract means that when the parties are free from their respective obligations, when the parties are free from their respective obligation, that is, they need not perform again. This is known as discharge of contract. Okay, so whenever the party refuses to perform, or whenever something unusual happens and now performance will not be possible, or you have already done your performances, both the parties have done your performances, in either of the situation the contract is discharged, that is, now the contract is no more valid. Okay, so discharge can be in various forms. There are various situations, there are various circumstances in which your contract becomes discharged, in which your contract is discharged. The first and foremost way of discharge. Okay, we are studying from the module itself today. It is on page number 73. Page number 73, discharge of contract, topic 1.13. Topic 1.13, discharge of contract. Okay, clear everybody? Let's get started. Firstly, we'll discuss that from what circumstances, in what circumstances, in which situations the contract is discharged. First and foremost mode of discharge is discharged by performance. When the parties complete their respective obligations, when the parties complete their respective obligation, the chapter we studied before this, that is performance of contract. Okay, so by performance your contract is discharged. I told you to deliver the book, you told me to deliver the money. I delivered you the book, you delivered me the money. That is, both the parties are now free from their respective obligation. My obligation, my duty was to deliver the book to you, and your duty was to deliver the money to me, right? So we both have completed, that means what, we have completed our respective obligations. So here performance is one of the mode of discharge of contract. Okay, so by performing your contract is discharged. Okay, either it is actual performance or attempted performance, both are included here. We have already discussed what an actual performance is and what an attempted performance is. Second way of discharge is by mutual agreement. Sometimes what happens now, we, that is the parties to the contract, mutually decide that we'll end this contract here itself, we'll not perform in future. So there are certain circumstances, certain situations where the parties mutually decide to rescind the contract, to cancel the contract. First and foremost way is novation. First way of discharge by mutual agreement is novation. What is novation? When the terms and conditions of the contracts are changed. When the terms and conditions of the contract are changed, or some new terms and conditions are added, this is known as novation. This is known as novation. This novation could be between the same parties, or it can be between new parties. That means what? If there are two circumstances where novation occurs. One is when any new terms and conditions are added, or or some alteration is done in terms and conditions of the contract. This is known as novation. And second situation, this could be this changes could be either between the same parties or between the different parties. Now the example, let's take an example to understand this concept better. You and me decided to enter into a contract. I decided to deliver you the book. I told you there is a condition. If you give 50% of money in advance, then only I'll deliver this book to you. Okay, so the contract is clear here. That is, I have to deliver the book to you and you'll have to deliver the money to me. The condition is you have to give 50% advance. Now what happens, you and me are unable to agree on a same topic. Okay, so what we decided that with mutual consent, okay, with mutual consent we decided that 40% will be paid in advance and 60% will be paid afterwards. Now in the starting, when the contract was made, the terms and conditions were about 50%, but now that has been reduced to 40%. That means what? Parties are similar, you and me are similar, but only the terms and conditions of the contract have slightly changed, or some new condition has been added. For example, I told you that now with this book you'll have to purchase the pen also. So I have added one more new condition. This is known as novation. That is, between the same parties, some new condition is added or there is some change in the old condition. That is novation. Or it could be between different parties also. Now I have completely changed the party. Despite of you, I am giving my book to Mr. C. So what happens here? The party is only a new party. Okay, so old party does not exist. This is also novation. But all these conditions will be happening with mutual consent. That is the consent of both the parties are required here. If any of the party is not consented on that, is not allowing you to do so, then it will not be a valid discharge. So whenever you are doing novation in a contract, the old contract is discharged. Now the initial contract was I have to deliver you the book and you'll have to pay 50% advance. Now this contract has come to an end. This contract is discharged. Now new terms and condition, new contract has been formed between you and me. That is, you'll have to pay 40% in advance, or you have to purchase a pen with it, or I'm giving it to Mr. C. Now what happens here is entire contract has been changed. So this is known as novation. So novation is when any new terms and conditions are added to the contract between the same parties or between different parties. This is known as novation, and this will happen with mutual consent of all the parties. If there is no mutual consent of the parties, then novation will not occur. So one of the mode of discharge is novation. Another is rescission. Rescission means cancellation of the contract. Rescission means cancellation of the contract. Here also your contract is being discharged. I told you to deliver the book. I delivered you the book, but you refused to pay the money. And you gave the book back to me. That is, no, I don't want to purchase it anymore. Okay, so what happened here is the contract between you and me was for book. Now the contract has been cancelled. This is known as rescission. This is known as rescission. When you clearly cancel the entire contract, then also your contract is being discharged, but obvious. Okay, so next mode of discharge is next topic in this is rescission. In rescission, it means that cancellation of the entire contract. Cancellation of the entire contract. Third is alteration. The meaning of alteration is very clear. That is where terms and conditions are slightly altered. That is when terms and conditions of the contract are changed. This is known as alteration. Then what is the difference between novation and alteration? In novation also we are adding some new terms and conditions, or we are changing some old terms and conditions, or we are changing the parties. It is also part of alteration only, right? But the basic difference between alteration and novation is, in novation, either all the old conditions are replaced by new conditions, or some new conditions are added, or some new party is added. But when we talk about alteration, the parties never change. The contracting parties will always be similar. The terms and conditions can be slightly altered, can be slightly changed, but the parties will never change. So the basic difference between alteration and novation, both seems very similar. Okay, both seems very similar, but the basic difference between alteration and novation is, in novation, parties can also be changed. New parties can be involved. Old parties can be dismissed. But in alteration, parties never change. When parties are changed, it is a part of novation, not alteration. Okay. So alteration is when you slightly change the terms and conditions of the contract. So here also the old contract is discharged. Next is remission. Remission I've also told you in earlier classes when we were studying about consideration. Okay, remission is when you accept at a lesser value. Topic name is discharge of contract. Page number is 74 now. Page number 74. Topic is discharge of contract, and right now we are studying point number 2, discharge by mutual agreement, and sub point 4, remission. Okay, so remission we have already discussed in consideration. Remission is accepting at a lesser value. When you are not like I took a loan of rupees 1 lakh from Mr. A. Okay, I took a loan of rupees 1 lakh from Mr. A, but now I am unable to pay rupees 1 lakh because I do not have. Okay, so we mutually agreed, we mutually decided that I will be able to pay only 80,000, not more than that. Then A told that, okay, I'll accept 80,000. If I do not, he was thinking that if I do not accept this 80,000, entire amount will be gone. So let's do full and final settlement on 80,000. Now what happens? The initial contract between me and Mr. A was for 80,000. But now this, 1 lakh. But now this contract has been changed. Now I'll be able to give only 80,000 to this person. And he had agreed upon it also. Okay. So by mutual consent, we both have decided that only 80,000 will be given by, he has given me discount of rupees 20,000. So here the terms and conditions of contract are not similar as earlier. The earlier contract was for 1 lakh. But now the contract is for 80,000. So in remission also, when we accept at a lesser value, then also the old contract is discharged. The initial contract that was made between us is discharged, and now new contract has been formed that is for rupees 80,000. In future, this Mr. A cannot demand this 20,000 from me. Reason behind this is we have done full and final settlement. That is 80,000 में हमारा काम पक्का हो चुका है. 80,000 से 1 रुपया ऊपर मैं अब इनको नहीं दूंगी क्योंकि हमने आपस में म्यूचुअली ये डिसाइड किया है. Because we have decided this thing mutually that now we'll do full and final settlement on 80,000. We have done remission. So in future, this 20,000 difference can never be asked again. Okay. So this is known as remission. Remission is when you accept at a lesser value. In remission also your old contract is discharged. Last is waiver. Waiver means what? Waiver means waiving of some rights, foregoing some rights. Waiver means what? Sometimes what happens now? You foregone some rights into the contract. Now for example, I appointed a contractor to build a house for me. Okay. I appointed a contractor. His duty was to build a house for me. I told this contractor that I need a house that should be 2-storied. There shall be lift in the house. There shall be furniture. There shall be this. There shall be that. Okay, so this was decided between me and the contractor. Now to build this house, all the rights I have transferred it to the contractor. Now contractor has to build the entire building. But what happens later on? The contractor was unable to build the lift. Okay, the contractor was unable to build the lift. So he sub-appointed another person that will come here. Entire work will be done by contractor, but only the third person will come and put a lift into this house. So what happened here? His right, that is the contractor's right, was he has to build the entire home. All the rights regarding this construction goes to the contractor. But he has waived off some of these rights. That is for building the lift, he foregone his rights. He has transferred this right to some other person. This is known as waiver. When you are unable to perform the entire contract and you waive off some of your rights and you deliver those rights to some other person, you transfer those rights to some other person, this is known as what? Waiver. Okay. One more situation is there that is not given in your book. I am telling you extra. Okay. So one more thing is merger. Just like merger, just like waiver, where in waiver what happens now? One person foregoes his right, okay, to another person, or just say no to that right. But what happens in merger? Merger means when two rights are mixed together. When two rights are mixed together. Now in waiver also your contract is discharged. Reason behind this is old contract was that is you have to build the entire building with lift and with everything. This was the old contract, but now this contract is being discharged and now new contract has been formed where this contractor will be building entire house except the lift. Lift will be built by some other person. Okay, so now there is a new contract. So the old contract is discharged. What happens in merger? Merger where two rights are mixed. Here what happens in waiver when one right is foregone. But in merger, two rights are mixed. Now, for example, I have purchased this house on lease for online classes. Okay, I am taking online classes here. So I have purchased this house on lease. Now what happens? Sorry, not purchase. I have taken this house on lease. Now what happens here is I am teaching you. Okay, after a few time, after a couple of time, what happens? I thought that I should purchase this home. Right now, I have taken this home on lease. So I am the lessee. I have the rights of a lessee. The person who is taking something on lease is known as lessee, and the person who is giving you something on lease is the lessor. So right now there is a contract of lessor and lessee between the owner of the house and me. I have the rights of a lessee, but in few months I decided to purchase this building. Okay, the lease was for 2 years. The lease was for 2 years. That is, I will be lessee for remaining 2 years. Now what happens here is before 2 years, that is after 2-3 months only, I decided to purchase this building. I went to the owner and I told him that I am willing to buy this house. So he told me, okay, this is the price of the house. If you are okay with it, you can buy this. I said, okay, I'm okay with it. I'll buy this house. Now what happens here is I was the lessee here for 2 years. Okay, but today I became the owner because I paid the price and he transferred this home to me. Now I will be the owner. I will have the rights of owner. Okay, so the rights of lessee has been merged into the rights of lessee. Owner. Okay, the rights of lessee has been merged into the rights of owner. That is, now I will no more be lessee here. The advance that has the lease amount that I have already provided for 2 years will be lessened from the amount that I'll be given for the house. So here two rights are merged. Now the right of ownership and the right of lessee has been merged, and now I become the owner of the contract. So the earlier the contract of lease has been discharged. The earlier contract that was of lease between me and the owner, that has been discharged now. So merger is also one of the way where the parties mutually agree to discharge the contract. Next is discharge by lapse of time. Sometimes what happens now, you in the starting only you decide some time period, that is we are entering into a contract, but this contract should be finished in this particular time period. So what happens here, if you fail to give your performance in that particular time period, then your contract is lapsed. That is, then your contract is discharged. I told you that I'll deliver this book to you on 15th of December and you'll have to pay the price to me for this book till 30th December. Now what happens if I fails to deliver the book to you on before 15th December, then the contract can be discharged. Or if I deliver the book and you fail to deliver the money to me till 30th December, then also the contract will be discharged. So sometimes what happens, every work has some time limit. Okay. So if the time limit expires, then you are unable to recover anything from the other person. The reason behind this is your contract is discharged. Like we talked about time bar debt. Time bar debt was whenever you give any debt, whenever you give anything as a loan to somebody, as a debt to somebody, in that case, from the date of maturity, you have a time period of 3 years to recover that debt from the other person. But if you fail to recover, if you fail to try to recover in those 3 years, then you will not be able to recover that debt after that. Okay. So this is known as time bar debt. We have already discussed this in the later section, in the earlier sections. Okay. So here, because the time period has been lapsed, so the contract becomes discharged. Next is discharge by operation of law. Sometimes what happens now, the law is such that you are unable to give your performance. Like for example, if the promisor dies, then who will be responsible for performance? Now, who will give the performance? In this case, what happens now? If there is death of a promisor and the contract was of personal nature, then your contract is being discharged. Or the any of the party has become insolvent. It is uncontrollable. Any party can become insolvent anytime. This is out of control of human being, right? So if any of the party becomes insolvent, then in that situation also your contract is discharged. Your contract is discharged. Reason behind this is, now he does not have a single rupee left, then how he will be able to give the entire money, how he will be able to give the entire performance, right? So if the parties become insolvent, or if the promisor dies, or merger happens, or there is some material alteration. Material alteration means when you once we have studied alteration, it is just part of alteration only, just like alteration. I'll not say part of alteration, it is just like alteration. What happens here, material alteration means that the terms and conditions which were very essential in the contract, which were related to the subject matter, if you do some alteration to that subject matter, then it is not as material alteration. Material alteration means alteration of something which is very important to the contract. And if you do that unauthorizingly means you have done this material alteration without taking permission from the other party. You have done this alteration without taking the permission of the other party, then also your contract can be discharged. The other party can refuse to enter into contract with you. Reason behind this is you have done unauthorized material alteration. That is, you have changed the terms and conditions of the contract by your own. You haven't taken any permission from that party. So here your contract is discharged. Next is discharge by operation of law. Sometimes what happens, am I audible and visible? Is everything okay? Can you guys see me? Am I audible and visible? Okay, so this is also a mode of discharge. Another mode of discharge is discharge by impossibility of performance. Sometimes what happens now when you are entering into such contracts where performance will not be possible. When performance will not be possible, then also your contract is being discharged. Now, impossibilities are of two types. One is initial impossibility and another is supervening impossibility. Okay, so there are two types of impossibilities. One is initial impossibility and another is supervening impossibility. What is initial impossibility? Initial impossibility is when you enter into a contract, whenever you are entering into an agreement which is void ab initio, that is which is void from the very beginning. You know that performance will not be possible. Like for example, I told you that give me rupees 1 lakh, give me rupees 1 lakh. I will come to your home and I will put a hand on your body, on your head, and your whole body will be sinless. All the sins will be gone from your body. I have this power, I told you. Now, this is physically not possible. Okay, this is superstitious thing. This is not possible. So here you are entering into a contract with me, which is impossible. Okay, so these kind of situation where it is from the very beginning, we know that this will not be possible to give performance. This is known as initial impossibility. So in initial impossibility, your contract from starting only is discharged. Reason behind this is you will not be able to perform it. Another type of impossibility is supervening impossibility. Supervening impossibility is where your situation is not void ab initio. That is when in future, when you enter into a contract, it will be a valid contract. But in future, something happens where performance will not be possible. Like for example, subject matter is destructed. Subject matter is destructed. Now I went to in Jodhpur where I'm living right now. I want to purchase a Range Rover. Okay, so there is no Range Rover showroom here in Jodhpur. So I went to Jaipur, to some other city, to where they have an office of Range Rover, where they have head office. So I went to that Jaipur and I booked a Range Rover, a limited edition Range Rover. Now what happened there? At the time when I entered into the contract was valid, Range Rover was available, and they told me that on 20th December this Range Rover will be delivered to your house. Now this Range Rover was limited edition. What happened when I entered into the contract? The contract was valid. The contract was valid. Range Rover was available. I gave advance. Everything was going smoothly, perfect. Now, what happened when the date of delivery came? That is on 20th December. There are trucks, big trucks, in which these small cars, etc., are loaded and they are delivered to the different places. Now, what happened? This truck went from Jaipur and was coming to Jodhpur. Meanwhile, on the highway, what happened? This truck met with an accident. Met with an accident, and the accident was so critical that all the items in that truck got completely destructed. Got completely destructed, was damaged completely. Now, what happened here is the Range Rover has been completely destroyed. That is, not a single thing can be done to recover this. Okay, this cannot be altered, this cannot be rectified, this cannot be changed again. So what happened here is now giving me that Range Rover will not be possible because the subject matter, that is the Range Rover, has been completely destructed. So this is known as supervening impossibility. What happens in supervening impossibility? That is when you enter into a contract. You do not know that performance will be possible, performance will be impossible. But later on, due to there are certain circumstances which renders the which renders the performance of contract impossible. Okay, so this is one situation. Or the promiser may die, or the promisee may die. This is also supervening impossibility. That is, when you entered into the contract was valid, but when there was a chance of performance, if either of the parties dies, then also the performance will not be possible now. So this is also supervening impossibility. Just three things that you have to keep in mind is, whenever we talk about supervening impossibility, first, this in this impossibility, first of all, the work should be impossible. The work should be impossible. That is, by any means, you should not be able to give performance. Then only it will be impossible. Second situation, the impossibility must arise naturally. That is, it should not be done by promiser. Now, for example, this accident was deliberately done by the driver. Then this will not be known as supervening impossibility. So it will be considered as supervening impossibility only when the impossibility occurs naturally. That is, it is not it is not done by the promiser or any other person. And third thing that you have to keep in mind is, this supervening impossibility should not be self-induced by the promiser. Self-induced by the promiser matlab, the promiser should not initiate such acts where it could cause some impossibility. If the promiser is doing this deliberately, if the promiser is initiating something so that impossibility happens, then it will not be supervening impossibility. So whenever we talk about supervening impossibility, you have to keep these three things in your mind. There are certain circumstances, there are certain situations, there are certain reasons where supervening impossibility happens. One is destruction of subject matter, that we have already discussed. When the subject matter is destructed, now performance will not be possible. This is known as supervening impossibility. Death of the person, death or personal incapacity. When there is death of any of the party, either promiser or promisee, or they have become insolvent, or they became insolvent. There also is not insolvent, incapacitated. That is, either they are minor or they have lost their mental faculty. That is, they have become unsound mind. Then also the contract will be discharged. Next is a contract becoming unlawful due to change in law. Sometimes what happens now, there is a change in circumstances, there is a change in law which is not under your control. Now what happens, I have done a contract with Pakistan with some person who is living in Pakistan, but suddenly there is a situation of war between India and Pakistan. Okay, and now what happens here is, Indian law has been changed, and the Prime Minister says that now there will be no trade relation between India and Pakistan. Earlier we were having friendly terms, so everything was possible. But now what happened is, now we will not be able to do any business because the law has changed now. And law says that now you will not do any trade activities with Pakistan. So in this situation, this is also a situation of supervening impossibility. That is, in initial stages, when we entered into the contract, we never had an idea that these things will happen in future. So this is also a case of this is also one of our reason of supervening impossibility. Cessation of a state of things on existence of which the contract was based. Cessation of state of things matlab kya hota hai? Cessation means not cancellation, we can say that. Will not be able to perform. Sometimes law changes for states also. Okay, there is a certain law for entire state. Like in 2022, I guess, plastic was banned in Rajasthan. Okay, currently the government of Rajasthan has banned the use of plastic. So what happens in this state? in this state. It might be plastic might be valid in Gujarat or anywhere, but it is not valid in Rajasthan. So what happened? The entire contracts that were related to plastic comes to an end. Why? Because the rule of law, the rule of the state has been seized. That is, it has been changed. That is, it has been cancelled here. So this also gives rise to supervening impossibilities. Last is declaration of war. Whenever there is a war declared between two countries, at that time also it is also a part of supervening impossibility. In the situation of law, in the situation of war, in the state of war, the entire contracts are being cancelled, because at that time only there is one motive, that is we have to hide ourselves from the enemy or else we'll get killed. Okay, so in the situation of war also there is a supervening impossibility. So these are certain circumstances, certain reasons due to which supervening impossibility arises. In case of supervening impossibility, your old contracts are discharged. There are certain circumstances, there are certain reasons which do not come under supervening impossibility, like strikes, lockdowns. Not this lockdown that happened in 2019, that is 2020, that was because of COVID. I'm not talking about that lockdown. When a company is unable to give performance, when a company's assets are not enough, when a company's resources are not enough, they have to lock down their company. So I'm talking about this lockdown. Okay. So in case of strikes, lockdown, etc., the work stops. There is impossibility now. Work will not be able to be, because work is being performed by the laborers and laborers are on strike. But this is a controllable situation. This is considered as a controllable situation. You can do a mutual agreement with your laborers. So that is why this condition is not treated as a supervening impossibility. So if there is a question in exam that there was a lockdown of the company or there were strikes going in the company, so the contract was discharged on the basis of supervening impossibility. Is it true or false? Answer will be false. Reason behind this is strikes, lockdowns, etc. are not considered as supervening impossibility. Okay, so here when there are strikes, when there are lockdowns, when there is civil disobedience, um, when there is difficulty to give performance in what? Sometimes we enter into a contract and later on we discover that this contract will be giving us losses in future, so we back out. We say that will not perform. This is also not supervening impossibility. That is, whenever you were entering into the contract, firstly, whenever you are selling product or purchasing product, you have to think about the pros and cons of the situation. Okay, so this is a controllable situation. Okay, so this is also not considered as supervening impossibility. Commercial impossibility is also not included, that is inflation, etc. It is also not supervening impossibility. If any third party fails to give his performance, that is also not supervening impossibility, etc. So there are certain circumstances which are in first place, when we see those situations, we'll think that this is a supervening impossibility, but it is not. Whenever things are in control of human being, that is, if you have tried harder, then you would have been able to avoid this situation. So those situations are not considered as supervening impossibility. Okay, so when there is impossibility to perform, then also your contract is discharged. Impossibility could be either initial impossibility or physical supervening impossibility. Okay, clear? Any doubt till here? Okay, I hope it is clear. Last type of discharge is breach of contract. When you breach the contract, breach of contract means what? When the parties are willingly want to cancel the contract, when they do not want to perform, that is known as breach of contract. Contract ko todna basically is known as breach of contract. So breach of contract is also a mode of discharge. I told you to deliver the book on 15th of December. But on 15th of December or before 15th of December, I refused to deliver the book to you. I called you and I told you that no, I will not deliver this book to you. This is known as what? Breach of contract. That is, I am breaching my contract. I am not completing my duty. Duties को तोड़ना, काम को तोड़ना, contract को बीच में तोड़ना is known as breach of contract. So breach of contract is also a mode of discharge. So here this topic is completed. That is discharge of contract is completed. Discharge means what? Where the obligations of the parties comes to an end. Where the obligations of the parties comes to an end when the contract is no more present. When the contract is no more present. There are 5 modes of discharge. There are 5 modes of discharge. One is by performance. When you give your performance, the contract is discharged. Second is by mutual consent, by mutual agreement. Parties from their mutual consent can also discharge the contract either by novation, alteration, rescission, remission and waiver. By these 5 things, contract can be discharged by mutual consent. Third, it can be discharged by change in law. If the law changes, if the party dies, if there is merger, if there is some kind of distraction, then the contract becomes contract is discharged. Fifth is by impossibility of performance. If the performance become impossible, either supervening or initial, the contract is discharged. And last is by breach of contract. When you break the contract in between or before the performance, it is known as breach of contract. So these are the 5 modes of breach of contract. Clear everything till this topic? Is everything clear? If it is clear, then we'll start the next topic. Okay, next topic is breach of contract. Breach of contract means where the parties will not perform now, say no to performance. That is known as breach of contract. Breach can be of 2 types. One is actual breach and another is anticipated breach. Breach are of 2 types. One is actual breach and another is anticipated breach. Actual breach is when you fail to give your performance, you refuse to give your performance on the due date or during the performance. Like for example, I told you that on 15th of December, I will deliver the book to you. I told you that is on 15th of December, I will deliver the book to you. Now what happened on 15th of December? That is when there was the due date, when I was bound to give the performance. I refused that no, I will not give you the book now. Here it is actual breach of contract. So actual breach happens when either on the due date of the contract or during the performance. Like for example, there were several books. I told you 2 books will be delivered on 15th, 2 books on 16th, 2 books on 17th, and 2 books on 18th. So there was a lot of book. So what happens now? On 15th I delivered the book, on 16th I delivered the book, but on 17th I failed. On 17th I did not deliver the book. So what happens during the performance? When the performance was going on, performance will be completed on 18th. When the last lot of book will be delivered to you, at that time the performance will be completed. But before that only, that is on during the performance when it was going on, that time I refused to give performance further. This is known as actual breach. An anticipated breach is when the party declares that I have no intention to perform, and that is. Am I visible? Sorry, audible? Okay, I think you can hear me. So actual breach is when it is on the due date or after the due date, that is during the performance. Anticipated breach is before the due date, that is at the time when the performance was to be done. The parties declares that I do not intend to give performance. I do not intend to give performance. That is anticipated breach. Now I told you to deliver the book on 15th of December. But on 13th only, I called you and I told you that I will not give you any book now. That is, I am breaching my responsibility. I am breaching my duty. I will not give you any book now. This is known as anticipated breach. So the difference between actual breach and anticipated breach is actual breach is done either on the due date or during the performance. But anticipated breach is done before the due date. Before the due date, if party fails to give his performance, if parties clearly gives his intention, tells his intention to the other party that is he'll not be giving any performance in future, that is known as anticipated breach. Now what happens if there is breach of contract? Now I told you that I will deliver the book, but if I fail to deliver the book, for example, you have given me already advance, what happens? Will this advance be returned to you? Will you get the benefit out of it? What will happen in these circumstances? So whenever we talk about breach of contract, there are certain remedies available to you. There are certain remedies available to you. That is, if there is a breach of contract, you can take respective action against the third party. If I did not deliver the book to you and you have given me the money and I refuse to give the money back also, then you have all the rights to file a case against me. You have the remedies available. You can file a valid case against me if I'm not giving you anything. Discharge by mutual agreement means when the parties mutually decide to discharge the contract. This discharge could be by the way of novation, rescission, alteration, merger, waiver, and okay, this by 5 means. If you want me to explain all these 5 points again, please let me know. I'll explain it after the class. But if you do not, if it is clear to you, then just tell me. I'll continue the other topic. Okay, so breach of contract, I guess it is clear. So breach of contract, breach could be of two types, actual breach or anticipated breach. If there is a breach of contract, then the parties have an option to recover everything from the second party. If there is a breach of contract, the parties have a right to file 5 types of case on the other party who has committed the breach. First is suit for rescission of contract. Second is suit upon quantum merit. Third is suit for injunction. Fourth is suit for damages. And fifth is suit for specific performance. So if there is a breach of contract, if any of the parties fail to give the performance, then in that scenario, in that circumstances, there are 5 types of cases that the aggrieved party, that is who has suffered the losses, can file any of the 5 types of cases on the other party. We'll discuss these cases in detail. First, the party has a right to file a suit on rescission of contract. Now what happens here is, I told you that on 15th I deliver this book to you and you'll give me the money. For example, you have given me advance money, or for suppose you have not given me any money, I have not given you any book, and on the due date or after the due date or before the due date I refuse that I will not give you the book anymore. This means what? I have done breach. I have committed breach. Now I am breaking this contract here. Then you can file. Then you told me that I do not want to enter into any kind of contract. You go to hell, you do this, you do that. I will not see your face in future. But I refuse that. I will not cancel this contract. If you are not canceling this contract, then what happens? This contract does not comes to an end. And in future, any of the party can come to you and tell you that you have to give the performance. So it is very necessary whenever there is a breach, first and foremost, you break that contract, you cancel that contract, you put an end to the contract. If you're not putting end to that contract, then in future, any of the party can come and demand performance from you. So first and foremost, if you demand rescission, that is if you demand cancellation of contract from me, but I refuse to give you this cancellation, then you can file a case of rescission on me. That is, you'll go to the court and you'll appeal the court that this girl is not giving me book, this girl has breached the contract, so further I do not want to enter into any kind of contract, I want to cancel this contract. So the court will cancel this contract. So this is the first kind of case that you can file on me, that suit for rescission of contract. Second is suit upon quantum merit. Suit for damages. Suit for damages. Sometimes what happens now, there are due to cancellation of contract, either of the party can suffer some kind of damages. Like for example, I promised you to deliver the book on 15th of December. So what happened? You further promised some other party to deliver that book. You further promised some other party to deliver that book. Now today I failed to deliver. I refuse to deliver you the book. So what happened now? You will not be able to deliver this book any further to the second party. Here you will lose your goodwill because of me. So you are facing some damages because of me. So you can recover these damages from me. For example, you have already taken advance from that party, the third party. Now you'll have to refund that advance to the other party. The goodwill of yours is lost. No one will trust you now because you are breaking the contract, and that was because of me, because I did not deliver you the book. So if there are some kind of damages, either special damages or any kind of damages, ordinary damages, if any kind of damages are there in the contract, in that case you have all the right to recover those damages from the other party. Now you can come to me and you can tell me that because you do not give the book on time, because you refuse to give the book, that is why I had to suffer falana dimkana damages because of you. So now you will give this damages, and if I fail, if I refuse to give you those damages, you have all the right to file a case against me and you can recover those damages from me. Third is you can file a case of quantum merit. You can file a case of quantum merit. Quantum merit means as much as earned. As much as earned. Sometimes what happens, we are entering into a contract and we started performing. Okay, but the performance will go on for a longer period of time. Before its completion, before the completion of work, if you refuse to perform, if you breach the contract, then that will known as then you have all the right to recover all the thing that you have left. For example, I told a contractor that you have to build this house. Okay, I gave a lock and key contract to this contractor. That is, he has to build the entire house. He has to build the ceiling. He has to build the roof. He has to build the furniture. He has to build the gates, entire thing. He'll completely build this house and he'll give it to me. Now this building work will take some time. Okay. He built one story and after that he failed to build that in future. So he came to me and he told me that no, I don't want to enter into a contract with you. I'm breaching this contract here. I am finished. I am done with you. I'm not making this house any further. So what happens now here is I will file a suit of quantum merit from this contractor. For example, I have given 50 lakhs advance to this contractor and now he has done work for only suppose 20 lakhs. Remaining 30 lakhs are still with that person and he has not done any work for that 30 lakhs. So what happens here? I can file a suit of quantum merit on this contractor. That is as much as earned. I will contractor will be bound to give me that money that is remaining. That is, no work has been done. As much as earned, that is whatever I have earned, I will give money for that only. Whatever I'm not receiving, I'm not entitled to give money for that. I have received work of rupees only 20 lakh. Okay, and I have already given 50 lakhs. So the contractor is bound to give the remaining money back to me. If he's not giving that money back to me, then in that case, I can file a case of quantum merit on that party. I can file a case of quantum merit on that party. That is as much as earned. Fourth is suit for injunction. Suit for injunction. What is injunction? Injunction is when you temporarily let the other party that he cannot enter into any kind of contract. Now, if somebody follows Bigg Boss, then in Bigg Boss season 12 or 11, there was a contestant named Shilpa Shinde and what was the name of that? I don't remember the name. Okay, so there was a serial coming on and the name of serial was Bhabhi Ji Ghar Par Hain. So what happened when initially that serial started, the producer, the main heroine was Shilpa Shinde in that serial. So what happened? Shilpa Shinde was appointed as a heroine in that serial. And what happened after a very few time, after a few span of time, this serial was so like loved by the audience that the TRP of this serial was on top. Okay. So when there was a contract between this heroine and the producer, the contract clearly stated that till 1 year, your salary will not be raised. Till 1 year, you'll not be able to work with any other kind of producer. Till 1 year, you'll not leave this show. Okay, so there were certain terms and conditions in the contract between producer and the heroine. But what happened in 2 or 3 months, or I guess 5-6 months only, this serial was on the top. Okay, so the lead actress of this serial was thinking that the serial is going just because of me. The TRPs are going high because of me, and that was true also. They were going because of him, because of her only. But what happened? This producer, no, sorry, this heroine went to the producer and told him that your serial is getting loads of TRP and that is because of me. Because I have done my work so brilliantly, I have acted so brilliantly, that is why your show is on the top. So you need to raise my pay. You need to raise my pay. But the producer told this heroine that You should read your contract. For 1 year, you are not bound to demand any raise in the payment. So you cannot. So this lead actress decided to leave this serial, decided to leave this show. Because of leaving, the channel had to face a lot of trouble because the serial was going on top because of that actress only. So what happened? He breached this actress. She breached the contract. She breached the terms and conditions of the contract. She was not supposed to leave. She was not supposed to demand a increase in pay. She was not supposed to work with any kind of other producer for 1 year, but the time of one period has not expired yet, and before that only she left the show. So here it is a breach of contract. It is a complete example. It is a total example of breach of contract. So here she failed to perform. Now what happens? This producer filed a case of injunction on this heroine, and he demanded the court that for 3 years, now this heroine will not come on TV, will not come on any kind of screen. That is for 3 years. She'll not be able to work in any commercial. She'll not be able to work in any serial. She'll not be able to work in any picture. In short, she will not come to any kind of, she'll not be on screen for 3 years. So this is a case of injunction. You can also file a suit for such things where you can restrict the other parties for a limited period of time to enter into any other kind of contract. So this is a case of injunction. In very advanced situation, in very extreme situation, this case can also be filed. This case can also be filed. There is one more case that is suit for specific performance that we'll be doing in the next class. Okay, and we'll discuss this topic. Today we have discussed this in brief. We'll be discussing this topic in detail in the next class, and that is on Friday. And we'll also be discussing section 24 to section 30, that is void agreements. And day after tomorrow, this Contract Act will come to an end. Okay, so this topic will be completed. Any doubt till here? Okay, you asked me the doubt. Meanwhile, I'll clear this doubt of yours. That is, what was the doubt? Discharge by mutual agreement. Discharge by mutual agreement means that when the parties fails to give their respective obligations and there are certain changes, and that to which mutual consent, that is both the parties mutually agrees to do that. The kinds of mutual consent agreements are, first is novation. Novation means where what there's some new terms and added to the contract, or when some terms and conditions are changed between the same parties or between new parties. This is novation. Here the earlier contracts comes to an end. Okay, you want me to explain this novation, etc. in Hindi, right? Okay. So डिस्चार्ज बाय म्यूचुअल कंसेंट का मतलब होता है जब पार्टीज आपस में मिलजुल कर ये डिसाइड करती है कि हम जो है वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट अपनी मर्जी से यहाँ पे खत्म करते हैं. ये कैसे हो सकता है? पहला हो सकता है यहाँ पे नोवेशन के थ्रू. नोवेशन का मतलब क्या होता है कि जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑलरेडी चल रहा है उसकी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस में या तो कोई नई टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन ऐड कर देते हैं या पुरानी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन में ही कोई चेंज कर देते हैं. और ये जो चेंजेस हुए हैं, ये दो चेंजेस या तो किसी पुरानी दोनों पार्टीज के बीच में हो सकता है या किसी नई पार्टी को भी इन्वॉल्व किया जा सकता है. तो अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन होती है तो वहां पे क्या होता है, पुराना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जो होता है वो डिस्चार्ज हो जाता है, वो खत्म हो जाता है. ठीक है, जैसे मान लो मैंने बोला कि मैं तुमको बुक डिलीवर करूंगी और रिटर्न में तुम मुझे पैसे दोगे. नाउ व्हाट हैपन हियर इज कि मैंने तुमको बुक डिलीवर करने से पहले ही ये बोला कि बुक डिलीवर तभी करूंगी जब 50% एडवांस दोगे. तो ये टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन जो थी, ये कंडीशन जो थी ये पहले नहीं थी, ये नई कंडीशन हमने आपस में मिलकर के डाली है. तो ये होता है नोवेशन। अब यहाँ पे जो पहला पुराना वाला कॉन्ट्रैक्ट था वो खत्म हो चुका है। दूसरा होता है रेस्किशन। रेस्किशन का मतलब होता है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को खत्म करना, कैंसिल करना। ओके, मैंने आपको बोला मैं आपको बुक डिलीवर करना चाहती हूँ, आपने बोला नहीं मुझे बुक नहीं चाहिए, अब मुझे ये वाला कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में नहीं रहना है, मैं इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को यहीं खत्म करती हूँ। तो यहाँ पे भी क्या होता है, हम दोनों ने आपस में मिल करके, मैंने भी कहा चलो ठीक है तुमको नहीं एंटर होना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, चलो इसको यहाँ पे खत्म करते हैं। तो जब दोनों पार्टीज आपस में ये डिसाइड करती है कि अब हमको यही कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को कैंसिल करना है, खत्म करना है, तो ये क्या कहलाता है, रेस्किशन। रेम्युनेशन का मतलब होता है जब पार्टी जो वैल्यू है उस वैल्यू से कम वैल्यू में एक्सेप्ट कर लेती है, एक्सेप्टिंग एट अ लेसर वैल्यू। मान लो फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैंने आपसे 1 लाख रुपए का लोन लिया, ठीक है, बट आज मेरी कंडीशन ऐसी नहीं है कि मैं आपको 1 लाख रुपए का रिटर्न कर सकूं वापस। तो आपने और मैंने आपस में म्यूचुअली ये डिसाइड किया कि चलो आपकी कंडीशन नहीं है, तो आप एक काम करो, आप सिर्फ 80,000 रुपए दे देना, 1 लाख रुपए देने की जरूरत नहीं है। तो हमारा जो पहले कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ था वो 1 लाख रुपए के लिए था, बट अब हमने उस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को खत्म कर दिया और नया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बनाया कि अब आप सिर्फ 80,000 रुपए ही दोगे। तो ये कहलाता है क्या, रेमेशन। जब आप जो पुराना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है उसकी वैल्यू से कम वैल्यू पे एक्सेप्ट करते हो। एक होता है ऑल्ट्रेशन। ऑल्ट्रेशन में क्या होता है, जब आप पुरानी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस में कुछ छोटे मोटे चेंजेस कर देते हो, उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं, ऑल्ट्रेशन। उस चेंजेस की वजह से क्या होता है, पुराना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट तो खत्म हो जाता है और नया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बन जाता है आपस की पार्टीज में। तो नोवेशन और ऑल्ट्रेशन जब हम देखते हैं तो हमको दोनों एक जैसे दिखते हैं, सिमिलर से दिखते हैं, बट एक्चुअली में ये सेम नहीं होते। रीजन बिहाइंड इस, नोवेशन में क्या होता है ना कि पार्टीज भी चेंज हो सकती है, नई पार्टीज भी इन्वॉल्व हो सकती है, बट ऑल्ट्रेशन में पार्टीज हमेशा सेम ही रहेगी, पार्टीज चेंज नहीं होती है, सिर्फ टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस में छोटे मोटे चेंजेस होते हैं। तो अगर टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस में छोटे मोटे चेंजेस हो जाते हैं तो वहां पे भी आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, जो पुराना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है वो कैंसिल हो जाता है। मैंने आपको बोला मैं बुक डिलीवर करूंगी, आपने बोला मैं पैसे दूंगा, और मैंने बोला कि ठीक है आप जो है वो 50% एडवांस दे देना, ये हमारे बीच में शुरू में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ था। बट बाद में हमने ये दोनों ने आपस में मिलकर ये डिसाइड किया कि सिर्फ 40% ही एडवांस देना है और बाकी का पैसा काम होने के बाद देना है। तो हमने क्या किया, ये 50% वाली टर्म्स को चेंज करके 40% पर लेकर आ गए। इसको हम बोलते हैं क्या, ऑल्ट्रेशन। और लास्ट होता है वेवर। वेवर में क्या होता है, आपके पास में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के लिए जो राइट्स अवेलेबल है उस कुछ राइट्स को आप छोड़ देते हो, किसी और को ट्रांसफर कर देते हो या मना कर देते हो कि भाई ये अब भैया मेरे से नहीं होगा। जैसे मैंने एग्जांपल लिया कि मुझे ये घर बनवाना है और मैंने कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को पूरा ये घर बनाने के लिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट पे दिया, जिसमें उनको 4 मंजिल का ये घर बनाना है, उसके बाद में उनको इस घर में लिफ्ट लगानी है, उसके बाद में उनको घर में पूरा फर्नीचर करना है, वेल फर्निश्ड घर मुझे चाहिए। ये कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ मेरे और कॉन्ट्रैक्टर के बीच में। उसने सारा काम तो कर दिया बट वो लिफ्ट लगाने में सक्षम नहीं था, वो लिफ्ट नहीं लगा पाया। उसने क्या किया, ये लिफ्ट लगाने का काम फर्दर किसी दूसरे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को दे दिया अपनी तरफ से, ठीक है। अब यहाँ पे क्या हुआ कि उसकी जो राइट्स थी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, उस राइट्स में लिफ्ट बनाना भी इंक्लूड था, उसने अपनी इस राइट को छोड़ दिया और किसी और को ट्रांसफर कर दिया, ठीक है। अगर वो मुझे आके बोलता कि भाई लिफ्ट मुझसे नहीं बनेगी, बाकी सारा मैं कर देता हूँ, तो भी वो वेवर ही कहलाता। बट यहाँ पे उसने क्या किया, ये अपनी राइट्स किसी और को ट्रांसफर कर दी। मतलब क्या है कि जितनी उसकी राइट्स थी उसमें से कुछ राइट्स को उसने फोरगॉन कर दिया, कुछ राइट्स को उसने उड़ा दिया कि भाई अब ये भैया मेरे से नहीं होगा। तो ये भी क्या होता है, ये भी म्यूचुअल कंसेंट से होता है कि अच्छा भाई तुमसे नहीं हो रहा, कोई बात नहीं, किसी थर्ड पार्टी को दे दो तुम। तो यहाँ पे भी क्या होता है, आपका पुराना कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किस लिए था कि आपको पूरा लॉक एंड की करके घर देना है, पूरा आप ही बनाओगे। वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट डिस्चार्ज हो गया और अब इसमें एक नई कंडीशन ऐड हो गई कि अब ये लिफ्ट जो है वो कोई तीसरी पार्टी बनाएगी। तो इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं, वेवर। जब आप अपनी जो राइट्स है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में उसको कुछ कुछ राइट्स को किसी और को फोरगॉन कर देते हो या फिर अपनी कुछ राइट्स को उड़ा देते हो, खत्म कर देते हो कि भाई ये मुझसे नहीं होगा, दिस इज नोन एज वेवर। तो यहाँ पे इन 5 सर्कमस्टांसेस में क्या होता है कि आपका म्यूचुअल कंसेंट है कि दैट इज दोनों पार्टीज की मर्जी से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जो है वो डिस्चार्ज हो जाता है। समझ में आया? Do you guys have any further doubts? If you have any doubts, ask me here itself, or else those who have no doubts can leave the class. Okay, so that's all for today. I'm here it only. If you have some doubts, अगर आपको कुछ doubts है तो आप मुझे यहीं पूछ लीजिए, मैं अभी यहीं हूँ, और जिनको कोई doubts नहीं है वो क्लास छोड़ के अपना काम कर सकते हैं, जा सकते हैं. You're most welcome. जहाँ पर भी आपको ऐसा लगे मुझे ये चीज समझ में नहीं आई है, आई नीड टू चेंज द लैंग्वेज, मुझे हिंदी में समझना है, मुझे इंग्लिश में मुझे ढंग से समझना है, फ्री टू आस्क मी. आप बेझिझक मुझसे ये चीज बोल सकते हो. उस समय पर नहीं तो मैं क्लास के बाद में जब क्लास खत्म करूंगी उस समय आपको एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगी. सो फील फ्री टू आस्क एनी डाउट, एनी क्वेरीज. आई एम हियर टू गिव यू गाइडेंस ओनली. ओके, सो अगर आपको एक चीज समझ में नहीं आती है, एक बार नहीं आती है, 2 बार नहीं आती, 100 बार नहीं आती है, यू कैन आस्क मी. ओके, आई एम देयर फॉर यू. ओके, it is my duty that all your doubts are cleared, all you get everything whatever I'm speaking here. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a very nice evening. It is very cold here in Rajasthan, so enjoying winters. Okay, thank you everyone.